Hi, I'm Colby, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite authors, Cormac McCarthy. So Cormac is probably one of the most important living American authors. He's 89 and he's still putting out new work, releasing 2 books about quantum mechanics this year. So he's a really cool and interesting guy. He's kind of infamously recluse. His writing style is uniquely his own, and it can often be pretty difficult to get into or impenetrable because he doesn't use a lot of the normal devices we use in writing. Like, he doesn't use quotation marks, he doesn't use standard punctuation. So there's no real distinction between dialogue and maybe in characters' thoughts and stuff like that. And this can make it difficult to read, especially when it's switching back and forth between characters. But it's actually a really cool way of writing because it forces the writer to write each character more distinctly. So instead of just telling you who's speaking, his writing actually makes it clear who is speaking, which is actually like a more difficult way to write. And you can kind of see this in inspiration with Sally Rooney and in the way that she writes in Normal People or in Beautiful World, Where Are You? So I think she's a cool author, kind of taking inspiration from that. His writing also reminds me a lot of like Hemingway's very like stark journalistic style, but then Cormac has this rich Southern dialect that he adds to all of his characters. And it also reminds me a lot of the plays of Sam Shepherd, especially True West, the way that the characters interact in this this Southern Gothic kind of a way. So those are a few of the inspirations and a few of the people that he's inspired. So I just want to get into a couple of recommendations that I would recommend for someone who wanted to start reading his work. So the first book I'd recommend is The Road. And now this is his probably most critically acclaimed book, and it's the one that won like the Pulitzer Prize, and it was also turned into a film starring Viggo Mortensen. So The Road is such a good book because it takes place in this really rich post-apocalyptic environment, and it's about this father and son that are traveling and trying to get to a safer place. And in that environment, Cormac creates this love story, this love between a father and son, and I think that's often not like a huge focus in literature or in films. And so having that contrast, this really dark external world, and then having this very dear, very precious thing, this love between this father and son, creates a really beautiful book in that way. And that's why I would recommend it. It's also his easiest probably to read because the plot is fairly straightforward, and the distinction between the father and son are the easiest. So The Road is where I would start with. No Country for Old Men is the second Cormac book I would recommend. Now, this book is awesome, and there's a famous film by the Coen brothers starring Javier Bardem, who creates such a memorable villain in that film. But while I love the film, I love the book even more, and I think that the vivid scenes and just the imagination that Cormac has just are such a testament to his power in writing and just the power of like literature in general. So even if you've seen the film, I'd highly recommend the book. The book is awesome.
I don't know. I couldn't say. Call it. Call it, yes. For what?
Just call it.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
You need to call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair.
I didn't put nothing up.
Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it.
So for my third recommendation, I'm going to cheat and recommend 3 books. The Border Trilogy is my personal favorite work of Cormac McCarthy. Starting with All the Pretty Horses, the Border Trilogy is such a fun and exciting Western. There's romance, there's adventure, there's tragedy, and one really cool thing that he does with this work is that the first book has one main character, the second book has a different main character, and the third book has both of them, and there's an exciting climax with that. So if you like any type of Western, if you like Red Dead Redemption, if you like Once Upon a Time in the West, if you like any Clint Eastwood film in the West, any spaghetti Western, Django, if you like anything like that, you're going to really enjoy the Border Trilogy. And it takes place in southwestern US and in Mexico, and there's, all of the characteristics of a Western, but it's set in this period during World War II about some of the people that are still in the US and didn't go fight overseas. It's just such a rich job of creating these really like barren places and the travel and adventures that these guys go on. So these are my favorite of his books. Now, for my fourth and final recommendation, I want to go with Blood Meridian. Now, only read this book if you've read the other books and liked them. If you want more Cormac at his fullest, at his most grandiose, then this is the book for you. This is a deeper, darker Western. It takes place with this gang that goes around scalping people. So this book is very, very violent, and I want to preface that. If you don't want to read about that, then that's totally fine, and just move on. But it has to do with the nature of like the, you know, like how violent is man at his core. And there's a lot of different ways to read the book and to interpret it. But it's definitely very interesting, Cormac's thoughts about humans and about, you know, people and their purpose in this world. The ending is kind of up for interpretation, which, you know, allows the reader to kind of decide what ends up happening to the main character. So if you like darker Westerns, stuff like, you know, Unforgiven or Bone Tomahawk, then this might be the book for you. It is, you know, challenging to read, but I think also really rewarding in that same way. So those are the 4 books that I would recommend. I'd love to know what you think of them. Which books would you recommend? Which ones would you start with? Which ones would you not start with? And maybe what did I miss? So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.